Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Walk and Talk vlog with Lamake. In the United States, it's Memorial Day, and a lot of people get that confused with Veterans Day, and I know that there could be some overlap. You know, you're thinking of the people that have passed on to be able to help make this country great, supporting its borders, fighting for interests that connect with the personal freedoms that often we take for granted. And I'm really appreciative for that. I live in a country where I could voice my thoughts, whether they be criticisms or critiques or hopes on the merits of the ideas that the country was formed, and for better or for worse, it's all that I know. I was born in the United States to a Nigerian parent, my dad, and an African American parent, my mom. So I guess that quintessentially makes me African American in the most literal sense. That being said, speaking specifically about the Nigerian side of my family, when I think of Memorial Day, I also think of some of the lost memories and lost experiences that few people talk about anymore, going back to the late 60s, early 70s, with the Biafran War in Nigeria. Granted, I wasn't alive for it, but recently my dad has filled me in on some more of his experiences that he's had in that war, and it helped me understand even better the type of individual that he is. If you've had like a parent who was kind of mum about their own experiences growing up, a lot of that probably comes to generational decorum. You know, people would tell children to stay in a child's place. They wouldn't really express their feelings and emotions on things. And yeah, I'm sure that a lot of people growing up could have experienced this. I have my own kids, and my experiences with them are different. But growing up, there were times where maybe I just didn't understand why my dad was the way he was. Very, very intense individual. He did what he said, and he said what he meant. You know, I never grew up listening to him and my mom argue or fight ever. He understood that there was a time and place for things. He had a regimented order for his expectations, whether they be in the house, of us behaviorally, more so than any of my friends' parents growing up. And as a child, you know, sometimes you don't see the value in that. You're just feeling like, you know, you're just a killer of fun. And my other constituents don't have to deal with this, you know, coming in the house super early times, and I'm not going to go on complaining about it, but imagine anything that a young kid would complain about from a strict parent. I pretty much had to deal with that. But I look back, and man, I really appreciate him. And the more I consider with his escape from Nigeria and the circumstances surrounding it, he's even showed me some evidentiary proof. You know, not that I didn't believe the stories already, but since no one else is talking about them, I figured that I would. And being a person that's never seen war, being a person that's never seen anyone die in front of me, being a person that has never had to take responsibility for ending lives or protecting people that are close to you or making attempts to, I couldn't imagine shortly after, less than a decade later, becoming a parent and then figuring out how to exist in a brand new country. Even after the country that you love so dearly, under arguable treachery, abandoned you. Hold for a moment. So, I'm not going to go so far to say that my dad was a child soldier, but I think at 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, which is the experience of a lot of young people that go off to fight for their countries, man, makes you really consider some things. 18 years old, you're not able to drink, but we can put a gun in your hand and have you fight for whatever our issues are, our agendas are. And in the most noblest of sense, hindsight being 2020, I can look back and say that the people that fought on behalf of Biafra, trying to protect what was theirs under their own feet, trying to fight for their own civil liberties and the right for them to prosper with the oil that was under their feet, trying to stop the United States or the UK and whatever their support was with factions in the north from taking that. I think that that's a noble cause. A noble cause, unfortunately, that failed, but with all the stories and micro information that I've been given, it gives the totality of a human being in their experience having been able to live through that. So while Memorial Day in the United States celebrates the people that passed on for those liberties, in this moment I celebrate the people that have passed on under extreme duress at the hands of the Nigerian government and the support of the United States and the UK during the era since past, and circumstances that I benefit directly from by living in America and being born here. It's a really complicated scenario. So if you have kind of a, not love-hate, but a dubious experience or dubious relationship with the country of your birth, where you appreciate and understand the benefits of your circumstance, but at the same time it gives you a little bit of pause when you think, wow, all the people that we end up disrupting in the rest of the world because of the decisions we end up making most of the time for our convenience or for a major corporation's profit, makes you really wonder who's in charge. I think we already know the answer to that. But again, I mean this not to sully any of the memory of the fighters that fight for the freedom of our country, but hey, one man's freedom fighter is another man's insurgent. Your perspective is your reality. Interesting. Just interesting. The friends I went to high school with that, I still am in contact with. Some of my best friends. And even as we're grown people, middle-aged, have kids and responsibilities, I think back and I imagine myself at a younger age, if I was next to them in the trenches, and if one of them was wounded, and they were begging me to kill them because you know that there was no help coming, and you know that, for what it's worth, you're on a side that is less supported, because often the right side isn't the one that people end up understanding. It's just wherever the power struggle leads. Just couldn't imagine that. Some of the, not frivolous thoughts, but the things that bother me on a regular basis, to imagine if those thoughts were in my head as well, and how I'd be able to function. I don't know. It's really inconceivable. And the stories that he tells me, I won't give them all away because I feel like they're worthy of his own retelling in his own words and experiences. But it's like something out of a Hollywood movie. I'm going to do a little bit more research on my end, because I'm sure that there's books, I'm sure that there's content talking about the Biafran struggle. But I got to hear it firsthand from the most legendary historian, one of, if not the oldest living member of the Naze household. I have a last name that if you point to a place on a map, you'll be able to see where those folks are from, for better or for worse. While I've never been there personally, I've been able to get first-hand accounts of the love, joy, and pain of the place of my origin in part. And I'm very proud. I'm proud of anyone that supported my dad during that time, even before I was born, that allowed me to come into existence. And I support the experiences that, in a time where mental health wasn't discussed, and in a time where men were supposed to be quiet and stoic, and their only value is in what they provide, which in a lot of ways hasn't changed very much, he was able to quietly go through those experiences one after another, and here I am today. So for that, I thank all of you. Thank those that have passed, both here and abroad. If you believed in something and you're fighting for your friends or family and their personal freedoms and their rights and liberties, I salute you on this day as well. Complicated, right? Much of our realities are complicated. It's not cut and dry. It's not like watching a movie where you know where the good guys are, you know who the bad guys are. Life is a lot more complicated than that. And the unfortunate thing is, we try to depict ourselves more often than not as like the comic book hero of our own lore. But you gotta remember, wherever you're the hero, someone else views you as the villain. And for a good part of my life, I tried to either avoid those feelings, or I would try to people please. And someone told me a few years back, you know, Lemeke, people pleasers are liars. They don't really mean to. They're either lying to themselves or they're lying to the people that have expectations of them. It's just better to disappoint someone with the truth than to try to attain a goal that was unreasonable just because of someone else's expectations. No one ends up being happy, least of which you. Least of whom, rather. Really, that sat with me. I was like, wow. Okay. So, I'll tell you who wasn't a people pleaser. Our Pops. He didn't go out of his way to kowtow to people, to brown nose. He didn't go out of his way to give false expectations of whatever intentions were. He stuck to his morals and convictions. He wasn't perfect. Neither am I. But looking at the totality of his experiences in light of me coming to a point of maturation in my own life, I respect him still for it. I respect him a lot. And as much as one day I'd love for someone else to be speaking hallowed regard in my own name, I just realized that it doesn't matter as much as me trying to live the best life that I can right now. And you know what? I live in a country where that's a luxury. And I appreciate it. Complicated. Slomake signing out.